Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Are Britain's top therapy bodies encouraging different approaches to treating gender dysphoria? Former leaders suggest they are. Dr Christian Buckland, ousted from the UK Council of Psychotherapy, says activist influence is pushing children towards medical transition rather than exploring underlying issues. Other ex-chairs warn that ideological pressures, not child safety, are shaping therapy, leaving parents unsure whether their child's needs or activist agendas come first. Well, I am now joined by UKCP registered psychotherapist Alistair Stockwell, counsellor and clinical supervisor Terry Patterson, and senior lecturer in psychology at Lancaster University, Dr Katie Alcock. So this is an incredibly... Oh yes, let's have a round of applause, sorry. I just want to get straight to it because this is very important. So, look, this is vitally important, especially when we've seen this puberty trial possibly seemingly going ahead and places like the Tavistock closed down now. So the point is, how do these children get treatment that isn't medicalised? So, Alistair, first of all, let's talk about it. The organisation that you're part of, how has it been, as the argument goes, institutionally captured by trans ideology?
I found it utterly impossible to have a serious, reasoned, professional conversation with anyone in the organisation about how the problem of gender identity might be addressed.
And you joined I believe you joined the magazines, but they put out, all these organisations, they put out magazines.
We put out a quarterly journal, which is the main channel of communication.
Imagine to talk about issues about therapy.
Well, to talk, to think together, to reason, to use evidence. When the gender problem emerged on the horizon, it was completely new. We had a sudden upsurge of very young people, very vulnerable people, being told and believing that it was possible to change sex. And we had absolute professional silence on this matter. So I was aware that there were colleagues with a growing body of experience in treating these young people. They were publishing books, they were writing papers, and you would think that a proper professional body would disseminate these for general thinking. And I was told there's no way we're going to be publishing any of that kind of thing.
Well, this is a huge problem, Terry, because if these organisations are captured, then we're not actually learning about other ways that these children could be treated. And for the people who aren't familiar with these issues, I guess the way it gets split up is there's the kind of affirmative therapy, which is, yes, someone comes in and says, I feel like a girl. You go, yes, you are definitely a girl, and then that can, of course, lead to medicalisation. And then there's talking therapy, which could be because there are all these other underlying factors like autism, like a previous history of abuse, and then that has not being sort of facilitated by, what, your organisation that you're part of?
Yes, so I'm a member of BACP. It's the largest therapy professional body in the UK of over 70,000 members. And what we've found, I'm part of Thoughtful Therapists, is a campaigning group, and what we've found is that there's a complete capture of the institution. They really will not touch this. They completely promote a very pro-trans narrative. They expect you to believe in gender identity and to believe in the ideology, and they will push this non-stop through all their publications, through their training events, through their guidelines and policies, through their public statements. I think you've got a slide coming up about that. And on this, at the same time, they completely suppress any alternative viewpoints. So we've tried and raise concerns about the impacts of their policies on children, especially vulnerable children who really shouldn't need to be going through these medical procedures. We've tried to raise this with them many, many times over the last 4 years. We've written to them hundreds of times. We've had open letters, petitions. We have written to the ethics committees about it. We've tried everything you can think of, but they still won't look at this. They won't even comment on the CAS review. That's how bad it is.
So, I mean, Katie, with the organisation that you're a member of, You've tried to get involved, you've tried to raise these discussions, but essentially been shut out.
So I'm a member of the British Psychological Society, and every undergraduate degree in psychology in the UK has to be accredited by this. So if your son or daughter is going to university to study psychology, their degree must be accredited by them. So they put out some guidelines for professional psychologists working with clients who are unsure around sex and gender issues, and they were, again, completely, the only thing to do was affirm. If a child comes to you and says that they want to change sex, to say, yes, you can do that. And we wrote to them, about a group of psychologists, we became very concerned about this. We wrote to them and said, what is this? We thought that this was about science. This is not what the science says. I'm not a therapist, I'm a scientist and a researcher. And we thought, well, this is wrong. Why are you doing this? And so they basically shut us down. They took down the gender for the guidance for kids, but they have not replaced it. They said, OK, we're going to set up a committee to write new guidance. As far as I know, I'm the only researcher in the UK who works on this aspect of children's thinking. I applied to be on it. I've worked with the Department for Education, and you'd think I would be a shoo-in, but they didn't appoint me, and they still haven't produced any guidance.
Well, this is it. So there's lack of guidance, and from the organisation, when we know that I think it's 85% of children will just naturally outgrow these feelings. Do you think that the organisation is going to listen at all? I mean, how are you meant to, as a therapist, get guidance from your governing body, I guess, to treat kids?
Well, there's no guidance available at this moment in time, and there aren't even the basic processes from which to generate it.
Wow. So, I mean, that's the problem, is it, Terry? Like, we're trying to deal with the fact that to stop this needless medicalisation of children. Yeah. But the other alternative, then, is this talking therapy. But if the bodies themselves aren't actually pushing, showing that, discussing that, allowing that, discussing the best ways for that to happen, then the children aren't being served, right? Well,
one of the recommendations of the CAS review was that professional bodies need to come together and show leadership and provide guidance on the management of this population. And they've completely failed to do that. None of them have produced any guidance for us. So to the unsuspecting therapist out there who's just doing their job and not really aware of these debates, they wouldn't have a clue what to do. They would go along with what they think is expected of them, which is promoted everywhere you look in these organisations, which is to affirm and to support. It's never to challenge, never to look at any alternative explanations. It's purely to just go along with the child or the young person.
Well, let's show that image, because when the Supreme Court ruled that sex refers to biological sex, this is what your organisation put out, right? The BACP, which essentially shows how captured they are. We offer our support to the TNBGQ community, not just at this incredibly difficult time, but to let you know we are standing alongside you always. So that doesn't suggest that there's sort of looking at the totality of this issue at all. They seem to obviously go, this is what we think, and the Supreme Court, the law of this land, is a terrible thing for these vulnerable children.
Absolutely, and they're completely immovable on it. You know, they won't look at any alternatives. They suppress any kind of questions that we raise. This leaves children and young people. I mean, therapists, there are 70,000 BACP therapists. They're working in children's services and they're working in CAMS services, schools, universities. What chance have they got to have any decent therapy that's going to actually help them to think through what they're thinking of doing and understand themselves better and make sense of what's going on for them? They're not going to get any proper therapy. Therapists are too scared to do any challenge these days. You know, if we challenge it, we risk being disciplined. That's the problem.
That's the thing. So what can be done here? I mean, if you've all actually tried to make a difference, Katie, but nothing seems to be getting through to, I'm imagining, a very small cohort of people at the top who have this ideology and won't budge on it.
I mean, I would really like parents to be more aware of how their children develop. So little kids genuinely think that if a boy puts on a dress, he turns into a girl. They also think that if a cat puts on a dog mask, it genuinely turns into a dog. And parents don't they're not aware of how immature their kids' thinking is. And they come to the parents and say, I want to be the opposite sex. The parent says, oh, what should I do? And then finds out that all the material out there says, affirm them, tell them they can be the opposite sex. And I think that what we need is for parents to know how their kids develop. But doctors don't know this, teachers don't know this. So
well, that's it. But if they're spending, they go, well, my child needs some therapy, and then the therapists can't even discuss these issues openly, and it's just been put forward as one view, then that's a danger to the kids, arguably. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. Alistair Stockwell, Terry Patterson and Dr Katie Alcock. Big round of applause. We have approached the BACP, the BPS and the UKCP for comment, awaiting their response. Next on Free Speech Nation, as thousands seek refuge